Well, this is Guns, Knives, Watches, and what I want to talk to you about are machetes. Now, machetes are a controversial issue because a lot of people think you can go out there and spend $5 on a machete or $15 on a machete and get a great tool. Well, if you go out and, working on the farm, doing anything, going out, doing, existing in the jungle, any of that type stuff, you learn pretty quick that a machete is a very important tool. In fact, it's one of your most important tools. If, you're in the rainforest, you're on a boat, your boat tips over, you have a choice between your backpack or your machete, you better pick your machete. Because with your machete, you can manufacture, with the correct knowledge, anything that can be carried in your backpack. Well, within reason. So here's my kind of overview and use of machetes. Of course, this is an S machete. Used to be Randall Adventure. It's Randall Adventure Training. Their brand is S because there was a problem with Ontario They licensed the actual name Ontario Rat Anyway, they have this Lite Machete. It's light just because of the thickness of the metal and because of the type of wood that it's supposed to be used on. Made in El Salvador. It's made by the parent company of Condor. The handle is made in the United States. It's of course micarta. Bolted on, can be taken off if need to. I don't see why you would need to, but that's just the way it works. It has a very good little lip right here, which works really well for not having such a firm grip, so that when you hit something and it resonates through the blade, it doesn't go into your hand quite so much. With a kung fu grip, unfortunately, they would resonate and vibrate your hand. This, that, or the other causes fatigue. This is really good for clearing lighter brush. It's really good for reach. The length of the blade, probably about 18 inches, I would estimate. I wish I had a ruler around here right now, but that's just the way it is. It might be a little bit longer. Actually, I do have a ruler. Let's measure it. It is right at about an 18-inch blade, 17.5 inches. Well, this is a great knife. $60 is what the cost is. It has a Kydex sheath. They say it doesn't look like Kydex. The Kydex is actually in between two layers. It's a thin layer of Kydex in between two layers of fabric, and then it's sewn together. It has belt loops on it. I don't use. If I'm going to carry this, I will sandwich this sheath usually between my belt and my pants, and that's it. That acts more as a stop or something, than it does anything else. For me, I'm not, as I said, I'm not hanging stuff off my sheath. I don't want it hanging that low. Because if I'm going through brush, I want a little more control over my sheath than that gives me. So this is a really good light option. Want to go to something a little bit heavier. Still also made in El Salvador by Condor. This is the Condor Go Lock. I'll show you these two kind of together to give you an understanding of blade length. Condor does not give you quite as much reach, but what it does give you is it gives you the ability to process harder woods. It is a much, much thicker design. You can kind of look at it there. Kind of tapers down at the end. And as you can see, mine has been well loved. I mean, it's just a hard use knife. I don't know what else to tell you. Now, this is an older Go Lock. The newer version of it actually has, let's move this to the side, actually has a full tang. I would say it's probably easier to make the full tang, and it would appeal more towards the American market. It doesn't matter whether the full tang is necessary or not. I've never had a problem with this. I'm not beating things with it. and I tend to use the tool for what it's designed for. And it's a great tool for the money. I think you can pick these up for about $50, about $10 cheaper than the S, but that's just the way it is. Comes with a leather sheath. Of course, you can also see this has been well loved. It got wet and stayed wet for a little bit of time, but a little bit of shoe polish. Well, it wasn't shoe polish necessarily, but anyway, with a little bit of care, it came out. I think it was a liquid boot dressing, but this is what I actually put on it to get it black. And then, of course, I put a leather dressing on top of it. But anyway, good sheath, great sheath for the money. It's a surface dyed sheath, which you can kind of tell by the white right there. But not a big deal. You know, it works. For what it's designed for the price of it, great price. If you can buy this with the sheath, you'll get the best deal, of course, about $50. I think it's about $60, same as the S if you buy them separately. Another machete that I really like, and for the European audience, is the Martindale Go-Lock. And this has, you know, been used for many years. You know, you can get it with a canvas type sheath. Has leather at the mouth of it, and it comes with its own file. And you know, it's a great sheath as well. It's a great machete as well. Sorry, very thick, hard use. You can pretty much put this thing through anything you want to put it through. One thing you want to do though on this one in particular is later iterations in the last few years. I've noticed that the handle and blade fit and finish isn't quite as good as you know, I would like it to be. And what I've done is I've always gone through just with a Dremel tool or something and rounded and made those surfaces to where they met up. Did it along the back. You can see there where I took off the actual metal. It gives a little bit of glint there because it was normally that black finish. Did the same thing there. And that's just so that I don't actually have any hot spots on it, or minimizes the hot spots on it. And you just kind of work it in. Of course, I put boiled linseed oil on this thing. After that, just to kind of retreat it. Be careful with with any kind of linseed oil. It can catch on fire, spontaneously combust if you have it in an outside outbuilding. But I don't ever get it that hot, so we're good. And as I said, this is the Martindale Go-Lock, made in England. Number 2. Got that little alligator on it. But that's a really good one also. I'm going to show you a couple that I really don't like. And it's not because of, you know, they're not good machetes. It's because of the whole package. This is actually the Condor Parang. Now this is the townie or city Parang. I don't know what what they call it, but the problem I have with this is actually in the sheath. The Parang itself is a great Parang. It's thick, has a very good finish on it. You know, I like the way they've handled that actual curve there. The handle is great on it. It's similar to the Go-Lock. It is very front heavy, which was what you want. And it does a tremendously good job at chopping. But the sheath, on the other hand, bites weenie. Honestly, you know, if they would have stuck to a more traditional sheath, the one that, like, if you've ever seen them, you know, I'm going to probably make one out of a piece of PVC pipe. They're more of a rectangular design. The Parang goes down in it, has a notch that actually catches the top. And the reason that is how do you honestly put this in there without putting your hand at risk? Because you've got your hand coming in contact right there by the blade. And it just takes some thought. It takes a little more thought and a little more work than I'm kind of used to. And when I'm tired or doing something, that gives me the option of possibly being injured. And I try to minimize that as much as I possibly can. In every way I possibly can. So you know, The Parang itself is perfect. I could not come up with a way to improve it. It's a very hard use, woody type. You know, you could go at anything with this, and the weight of it might wear you out, but you'll get the job done. Another one is actually the Kukri Machete. Now, this type of style has been made famous by the Gurkha troops of Nepal. Of course, they are under the employ of the British government, and it's quite an honor to become one. Now, my problem with this one is also the sheath. It makes me feel very uncomfortable with my hand there, especially when I'm tired, and I could try to do it there, but it just, you know, what am I going to do? Reach down there? You know, it just becomes a problem. And it makes me think too much. And sometimes I just really don't like to think, especially when I'm working out there doing something. If I have to be thinking too much, then I'm not paying attention exactly to what I'm doing. But that's just me. You know, when I'm out there working hard, I like to be working hard. But other than that, it's a great machete. You know, it's got the blood notch on it, which is a ceremonial type notch. Of course, the manufacture of the actual knife itself or the machete itself is great. I just really don't like the sheath. I'll show you a real one, and this is from Nepal. So the Nepalese actually made this, and it's a wooden type of sheath, and I can easily pull it out, and I do it very gingerly. I'm not going at it like a banshee. I don't want to cut the leather. I don't want to damage the sheath in any way. And as you can see, that was actually made in Nepal. Now, this is an Americanized version of the knife. Of course, you can sit there and see that it is extremely thick. Typically, what they have done is they've made these things out of the leaf springs of Range Rovers. Is the way in which a lot of people make them. They manufacture them. They'll take a Range Rover, and once it's given up its life, they'll manufacture these out of the leftover leaf springs. And they tend to have less of a curve, but not quite be as long, this, that, or the other. But they really work. Now, this is an Americanized version of this knife because it is a full tang and has metal out here. The handle's a little bit bigger. It's not made out of horn, that type of thing. It doesn't have that decorative flange out here at the back. And they made it actually for us actually. But that's kind of more my style with this. And that's just the way it works. And you can get this, you can buy one of these made in Nepal for really close to what you can get that Condor for. These you can buy, I think, on Amazon for around, I would say $50. And that would be something that I would probably recommend over that. Of course, I don't know if you can tell this, but my leather is not the way in which these come. My leather has actually been deeply conditioned. It comes as a rawhide type, almost a rawhide type. And I get mine to loosen up just a little bit with just a little bit of leather treatment. Just because of the rawhide type format, when you're putting a belt through it, this, that, or the other, it just gets to be a pain in the rear. Of course, you want it to be tight, you want it to grip on your belt, but you don't want it to be so rigid that it actually breaks. It actually is so it's so rigid it actually just cracks. So brittle. Anyway. This is Guns, Knives, Watches, and those are some of my recommendations as far as machetes go. Of course, to go back over them, we have the ESEE Lite Machete. If you're going to do light duty work, it's a very good option. If you want to do heavier duty work in a little bit shorter package, but it's going to take more energy to wield this thing just because of the weight of it, you know, that's a good option. Or the Martindale, especially if you're in Europe. Or in Britain, or in any of the old empire. These are very popular. And And I'm not really taking anything away from the Parang. It's just my advice is we need to learn how to make some sheaths for those. But this is Guns, Knives, Watches, and my machete picks, and what has worked for me actually in the field. And you need to keep these things hair shaven sharp, folks. These are not blunt instruments. They are precision instruments, same as your pocket knife, same as anything else. Of course, you can't get them as sharp as you can a pocket knife. You can't do this, there, or the other. You can, it won't hold an edge very long. You have to put a little bit steeper angle on it. But they work. This is Guns, Knives, Watches with the Martindale go lock, the Condor go lock, and the ESEE Lite Machete. Have a good one.